welcome to my latest experiment. This is the big one, the one I've been waiting for all my life.
What is it?
Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Oh my God.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
And I am the voice of the voiceless.
And there is no one that does it better.
The Guy and Harley podcast, streaming all over your face.
Perhaps that was the most important part.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Pigville on the internet.
Well, welcome along to the show, which we are doing remotely from next door. Guy's directly through this wall just here. If he were to yell, I'd be able to hear him. And we're doing it separately because we're not friends anymore. Can't stand to be in the same room as each other.
Well, especially not when one of us has a cold.
Yeah. So I can't afford to be getting sick at the moment. Lots of exciting things on the horizon. So really don't want to be getting sick. And so the idea of sitting for an hour or two in the same room as you, I was thinking probably best to avoid that.
Well, I wouldn't. I cancelled my writing session this evening because I was just going to be sitting in a room with that person, with Anna Marie, who's my co-writer currently, and I was like, look, I'm sick. I will just be sitting right next to you being sick. You know,
Yep.
It's probably not the best idea.
Yeah.
For me to come over and do that.
Yeah.
So definitely not feeling amazing. Definitely under the weather. Started feeling sick just unluckily straight before my close personal friend Alex Savage was scheduled to wrestle on the weekend. And I love to go and see him perform, and I was concerned that was not going to be possible, but I gutted through it to see him beat up a woman and win his match. So
And
it was great. It was a great time.
And give her the flu.
And potentially give her the flu. We've yet to see. It was. I'm told it was fist bumps all round. No shaking of hands. Fist bumps all round. But who can say whether? To be honest, I feel like if I'm at my most contagious today, because yesterday and like the previous days I wasn't coughing. Now I'm coughing. Now I'm coughing all over the place. So yeah.
Well, I actually heard you coughing like through the door the other day. So you're definitely sick. I can hear it.
Yeah. So we're not faking. This is real, but we had to get a podcast under the belt.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Under the belt. Speaking of wrestling, I saw a horrific injury the other day, which was bestowed upon me by the algorithm. And it was Charade. Have you seen this? This guy Charade, his name is, and this was like 2012, but I'm about 12 years behind in my wrestling news. It wasn't WWE or anything like that. It was like more independent something. But he did like a backflip off the top rope, a big backflip. I think it was meant to be like a 1.5 flip and kind of land on his stomach on top of like someone else. But he basically over rotated and just landed on his head and sort of bent in a really horrific, traumatizing for me to watch kind of way, bent in a horrific way at about the chest, broke his back, I believe. And then the other wrestler, the ref didn't call the fight off. And the crowd just goes silent. They just go silent. They're like, oh, because everybody could see how bad it was. And then the ref encourages the other wrestler to like pin him, even though he's sitting there all like munted. And he instinctually, because he's a dedicated wrestler, he sort of tries to kick and kind of acts like he's still kind of dazed in that. But he was way too injured to be trying to pull that off. And the other wrestler could see it was a problem, tried to kind of, pin him, but didn't really do it properly. And then the ref was like, no, pin him properly. And then so he did it again, like moving a person with a horrific injury. And then, 1, 2, 3, he won the fight. But the good news is he did survive and he did recover. And then he went on to crack his skull open several years later, also wrestling. So a happy ending.
Look, Wrestling is I have seen that clip, I'm pretty sure. I've seen quite a lot of botch clips.
Mm.
One of the worst clips is actually Sid Vicious, RIP, who recently died about a week ago. He jumped off the second rope. So the second rope, not the top rope, the second rope. Just jumped off the second rope to deliver like an axe handle to someone, double axe handle, and his leg just completely snaps in half, and
Mm.
he's holding it, and it's just, you know,
Yeah.
like this is it in the boot, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Uh, and he's just like screaming, and everyone's like, "Oh shit!"
Hmm.
So that was so I've seen a few. I don't like seeing them, to be honest,
No,
but
me either.
it's interesting, because while a lot of these crazy moves where you think 100% someone's going to die, people have yet to really die.
Mm.
However, some very simple moves, for instance, someone doing a dive between the two ropes to the outside. Uh, Recently, Luchador Mexican died because he just goes straight through and then he hits his head on the guardrail.
Yeah.
And then the guardrail, and then he has a, and it was from a brain bleed, he dies. And
Yeah.
then
Got it.
another one, which I, again, because this is just the thing, wrestling is just inherently very like it's can be very simple things. So there's another one where someone was trying to do a sunset flip, which is essentially when the one wrestler is bent down, the other wrestler jumps over them and grabs onto their legs on the way over to roll them up into a pinning combination. And essentially, he jumps over and then he just doesn't rotate properly and lands on the top of his head, paralyzed from the waist, from the neck down
Mm.
now. And he
Mm.
was like one of these, big guy, but super strong, used to fight in the UFC as well, like just a total monster of a guy. And then just the simplest move, the most innocuous move that you would never think, would win anyone. And that's just the nature of it, Recently at that wrestling show that Alex Savage wrestled, one of the people got clipped the back of their head on the guardrail when they took a power bomb and had to go to hospital for the night. Concussion. So shit happens, bro. Shit happens.
Yeah. Well, especially if your job is to jump off things, shit happens.
Yeah, well, if your job is to fall down a lot in a variety of ways, which is really what wrestling is all about, then things can go wrong.
Well, I see my fair share of gore on the internet, which I don't actively look up and I don't like to watch it or anything like that. But I see my fair share due to my interest in war, and in particular at the moment, the Ukraine war. And for the first time in all of the wars in history, we don't normally have them streamed in HD, filmed live, in all these different ways. And so we got all this information now. And so there's a subreddit that I look at. And what I found was that injury by Charade actually traumatized me more than seeing these horrific deaths on the Ukraine war. And I think there's two reasons why. I think one of them is because, mostly, it is war, and that's the risk. People will die. Also, the people that what is it good for?
War never changes.
Is that, what's that from? Is that from?
That's from Fallout.
Yeah. It's so yes. And the other thing is that these people who I'm seeing die are the invaders who are, invading a foreign nation, and so it's harder to have sympathy for them. Whereas this guy, he's just entertaining. He's just a dude, and then the other thing too is that somehow being paralyzed seems more horrible than being like killed in a war, which doesn't make that much sense, but it's just more traumatic because it's like, oh no, that poor guy, what's he doing right now? I can tell you what he's doing right now. He's sitting in a bed looking at the ceiling, almost certainly,
Absolutely. And look, I'm going to pose a question to you, Harley.
Okay. Yeah.
If you're blind, if you're a blind person,
Mm-hmm.
how do you know when your ass is clean?
You got to do the sniff test, mate. There's only one way for it. You got to do the sniff test.
After 4 or 5 tissues, just do the sniff test?
Yeah, just do the sniff test. And then once you're confident, you do the touch test. When you're really confident, you do the taste test. After about 10 to 15 wipes, so 5 wipes, smell test. 10 wipes, touch test. If you still fail, 15 wipes, taste test. What about you?
I'm glad someone's figured it out. Oh, look that one when I saw that meme post through my feed, I was like, "Hey, I never really thought about that."
Yeah,
I don't have a good solution here.
Maybe
I don't really have a good solution here.
Maybe what they need, maybe what they've got is Braille toilet paper. Maybe that's the touch test.
Well, I mean, I thought you were going to say a bidet, but
Well, that too.
maybe they've got Braille toilet paper.
Maybe they got Braille toilet paper, Harley.
So, any blind people on the stream listening to this podcast, if you could chime in with an answer there, that would be very illuminating for us.
Yep.
Thank
sure.
you.
Let us know. Well, just seeing as we're on the topic of the war, I do have a bit of listener feedback here from, this is from Nick Zaladi. So long-time listener, Nick Zaladi. He messaged me and he said, out of 10 right now, how barred up are you about the Ukrainians taking Russian territory? He says that without a recent podcast episode covering the war in Ukraine, he's forced to go and look it up himself. But he doesn't like to do that because as a good modern media consumer, he would rather have his world news filtered through at least 3 different people or sources so that they can add their own biases and overall, do the thinking for him. So his question...
skewers perception and, I understand.
Yeah, so his question is, how barred up am I about Ukraine taking Russian territory? So I'm not sure, Guy, if you've been keeping up with the war at all. No. Have you? No. Well, so
not at all.
The big news of recent months is that the war has been taken home to Russia now because the Ukrainians have launched an attack. In the north of Ukraine, they've launched an attack into Russian territory. So now the war is actually Russian territory is being occupied by the Russians. These are now Russian towns which are being destroyed. And Russian people who are bearing the brunt of this instead of being Ukrainians. And it's quite a big, it's potentially quite a big pivotal moment in the war because Russia will never lose the war, or is unlikely to lose the war militarily on account of all of their resources. The way they'll lose it is on the war at home, the home front, So it'll be like if the Russian people have had enough and they stand up and fight back against the Putin's regime. So it's quite a big propaganda move, and it's a big move to get the Russian people riled up and against their leader. And so it's so how barred up am I? I'm pretty barred up. I think it's exciting. I think it's an exciting development in the war because so far it's all been very sad for the Ukrainians. They're sitting there like they're getting it's just all bad news every day, mostly. And now finally we get to see them on the offensive in Russian territory, which is I don't know. It's just an exciting development, really. So, yeah, good on you, Nick. Good on you, Nick. That's what I think. I think it's good for the war effort, and I've always thought it was kind of going to be the same thing in terms of how this war would go down. Is like it would become a big long war because Russia would keep on like battering itself against the rocks of Ukraine, essentially like wasting resources, wasting manpower, money, and the West would just kind of keep on providing resources to Ukraine in order to keep them in the war. And then basically, as a way of defeating the Russians, NATO can just make Russia defeat itself by battering itself against the rocks of Ukraine. And so that's pretty much exactly what seems to be happening. And I think that at some point, Putin's going to have to sue for an embarrassing peace where he essentially goes, well, shit, I'm fucked, because he can't, if he loses the war, then he'll be ousted surely from his office. And it'll be kind of over for him, because he'll have to deal with all of the financial repercussions of rebuilding a nation that he's destroyed. So, yeah, he's fucked. And that's a bit of a concern, because he's the guy with the finger on the button for the nukes.
Yeah, I feel like if anything, that means that he's just got to double down.
Well, you're right, but the thing is, though, that even if he wins, he's still got a similar problem, because he's still got to rebuild Ukraine. If he does win and he takes Ukraine, he's taken a destroyed country with a ruined economy and, millions of disabled people from the war and all of this type of thing. And so it's like it's going to bankrupt him either way. Winning might not really win for the average person in Russia. They'll still have all of their taxes will be paying to rebuild a totally different country. But we'll see.
Doesn't feel like he really thought it through. Or I guess his thought was would be a quick and decisive victory, and
I think
moving on.
I think he said 15 days. I think it was meant to be a 15-day special military operation. And so like 100,000 or 150,000 Russian soldiers poured across the border and attacked Kyiv, the capital. And the idea was like, 15 days, special military operation. We'll get rid of the Nazis running that country. And then that was 2.5 years ago. 2.5 years ago,
Well,
600,000 dead Russian soldiers. Terrible.
How many dead Ukrainians?
I'm not sure, but it's way less. It is way less because they're better trained, better equipped, and they're on the defensive. So being on the defensive gives you an advantage in terms of how many losses you take. Being on the offensive, you take like way more. They reckon you need 3-to-1 ratio when you're attacking, and that's because of all the extra deaths when you're attacking. So I'm not sure how many it is. But there's still also the countless, I don't know, not countless, but lots and lots of civilian deaths as well as a result of all the indiscriminate missiling of cities and stuff like that by the Russians. So, oh boy, I just want them to hurry up and finish that war so that my stock prices will go back up. I'm an unscrupulous investor.
It's really affecting your stocks.
No, I don't know if it's really been affecting the stocks I've been buying, but it's been affecting it. Like when the war ends, the stock market as a whole will go up. Because there'll be a better supply of fossil fuels from Russia and food from Ukraine, which will help bring down the expense of like day-to-day running of businesses, which will then mean that people have more money, which means the stock market will go up.
Well, speaking of Nick Slislati, he also messaged me and he said, how common is it to shoot a film overseas and call it a New Zealand film? And I did answer that, but I said quite common if it's a New Zealand team doing it. And he said, what are the benefits or access to cheaper crew, etc.? I said, or international cast or location that's part of the story if it's a co-production. But we do a lot of co-productions. And sometimes it does seem like, how's this a New Zealand film? Like, there's a question of like, how was this funded by the Film Commission? But the truth is that normally it's either it has to be, and the criteria I think is a bit looser over here, but it has to have like New Zealand team involved, or they have to shoot it in New Zealand. But like with Ireland, but also the other thing is that almost all the films we do over here are co-productions because no films get funded outright in New Zealand by New Zealand, which then opens up for us to kind of either do something with other people or them do something with us. So yeah,
I think it would be really cool to do a production in somewhere like Thailand where it's like cheap, fun, great weather, get great value for money, and we go over there with 100,000 New Zealand dollars, but film over there a movie worth that looks like it's kind of 3 times as much because you're getting everything for cheap.
Exploiting the locals.
Well, no, you can
With
pay
you,
very
I'm
good
with you.
rates. You could pay great rates and still be a lot cheaper than paying those bloody expensive money hungry Kiwis. The Kiwi
Those
crews.
bloody Kiwis,
Those bloody Kiwi
those
crews.
greedy,
Extortionate Kiwi
those greedy.
crews.
Well, look, I mean, that does bring me to my actual point, which is actually literally that point, which is
Yeah.
that um it almost, and look, I'm not like, oh, you don't deserve to be paid industry rates or anything like that. My sort of kind of general argument is that industry rates have to scale up or down relative to the overall budget of the thing.
Mm.
And so you can't, for instance, work on a short film and go, yeah, well, this thing is, I was getting paid $1,000 a day on Minecraft.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so that is my rate. My daily rate is $1,000. And you know what? You're ripping people off if you don't pay them $1,000
Mm.
because that's industry rates. And
Mm.
it's like, yeah, of course it is industry rates contextually to the budget of Minecraft, the movie. But it cannot be industry rates contextually to, $100,000 or 50,000 or 30,000. Like they're on different things. And I think we have a big problem of an inability to scale relative to our budget, as in essentially these overseas productions have set a bar of industry rates and what people charge for those industry rates. And then in New Zealand, when you go to another film, you go, yep, that's what I need per day. And it may well be what you actually need per day to make a living and survive and get by, but it's not sustainable in the long term. And it also means that essentially the other way to look at it is if you just apply all industry rates to a New Zealand film, it means that every time a New Zealand film or a New Zealand TV series gets made, it will look worse and have lower production value than its international counterpart, because essentially you've blown all your money on your crew rates and have nothing left for the actual film's, production design, art department, costumes, lenses, camera package, all those things, because there's literally the money just went on the rates of the crew. And so no one really talks about that because no one wants to say, oh, hey, man, you should get less. But it's not a matter of should or shouldn't get less, or it's just a matter of scale relative to budget. And you have to scale accordingly. And I don't think we do that very, very much. And I think it creates problems for some of these films because they're like, shit, although this is a $4 million film, we've spent $3.6 million on the crew.
Yeah. The same crew that we would have got for free on an independent one.
So we're making a $400,000 film now, and it's going to look like a $400,000 film. Now, yeah, don't get me wrong. You could say, well, but the crew will bring their skill and expertise. Absolutely, they will, and absolutely there will be some, uptick in quality and using those experienced good people. But I don't think it will balance it out, because if this, for instance, if this DOP shows up and he's like, all right, okay, where's my team? And he's got his little team there. He goes, cool, where's the lights? And there's like 2 lights because they spend it all on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, where's the okay, all right, forget about the lights. We just need an amazing camera with beautiful lenses. And then someone rocks up and they go, well, we could actually only afford the C camera. It's like, oh, all right, well, don't worry, because if we just pointed at some beautiful production design, and then the production designer comes up and goes, well, we couldn't really afford to dress this set, so it's we're just going to shoot against. I hope you don't mind light switches and blank white walls. I hope you're all good with those. And then suddenly you're like, damn, we're in trouble here.
Yeah.
So just a thought for the industry.
Well, evidently I'm out of touch with what's a fair rate, because recently I had a job that I couldn't do. It was $500 to go and film an interview. It would have taken, an hour. The actual interview was not very long, and it would take you a little while to go there and set up your lights and get it looking okay, and then film it. But the interview itself would be like half an hour type thing. So go there, set up, film it, interview the dude. All right, it was $500. That's how much the job was. That's how, and I couldn't do it, so I was trying to find someone else to do it. I was like, cool.
3 hours work.
I'm sure I can find someone to come and film this for 3 hours. For $500. That's not a bad rate. I was asking around. Now, most people were too busy, to be fair, so I guess that's a good sign for the industry. But there was another guy who wasn't busy. He was available, and he was like, yeah, look, here's the thing, here's my rates, and he was like, normally it's $1,200 for a day rate, and I was like, yeah, but this is $500 to go film a. I think it was. He might have even said it was like. I think he might have even said that was his half day rate, and it was $1,800 or something like that for his normal.
Yeah, he could have.
But that was including his gear, I think. But obviously, mine included the gear as well for $500. And I was like, fucking hell! Like, so let me get this straight. You got a morning off. It was like an 11 a.m., so it wasn't like an early start or anything like that. It was like cruise down there, easy location, set it up. Film it, go home, $500. Robert's your father's brother. That's your week covered. That's your rent covered, and some, hopefully.
Yep.
No, not interested. Couldn't do it. And this is the same guy that filmed the 48-hour film that I acted in, right? So it's like, I was like, okay, cool. Well, he's acting it. He's shooting 48-hour films, presumably for free. So $500 for a few hours work in the morning. He's probably keen. Not keen.
It's fucking weird. Like, obviously, if you're there's only two, ways to look at that. Like, one way to look at it is that he's making so much money right now.
I think that's it.
$500.
He wouldn't wipe his ass with it. He doesn't get out of bed. He doesn't get out of bed for $500.
It's unappealing. Like, it's distasteful to him. $500 in my pocket for a day? Fuck you.
Half day?
Fuck you, motherfucker. You piece of shit. How dare you?
How dare you?
There's that. How dare you offer me $500 for 3 hours work? How dare you, sir?
How very dare you?
So there's that. So that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is that, yeah, he's sort of set his own parameters, and sometimes those parameters are fucking stupid.
Well, yeah, I guess we will never know,
and
unless we ask him if he needed that money or not. If he needed the money and said no.
Well, yeah, and look, if you're earning good money, like a certain times, that doesn't seem appealing to you. Like, maybe that your time is more valuable than that. But I do think, yeah, like it's quite a lot to turn your nose up at just
for a little job.
Nothing.
Yeah.
For a little job, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I also think, like, even in that sort of commercial corporate world, which is sort of film adjacent, those are other standards that you can't, like, it's like, yeah, man, if you're going to shoot a fucking commercial project, okay, cool, that's good for you that you charge $1,200, and if people will pay you that, that's fantastic, great, my hat's off to you, sir. However, this is a narrative. This is a film. This is what we are trying to. This is the industry we're trying to nourish and nurture to continue to tell our stories, share our Kiwi stories to the world. It's not a fucking, it's not a fucking sit down interview with the, head of fucking Colgate talking about extra whitening of the teeth.
Yeah.
This is something. This is art, man. This is fucking art. So we have to apply different standards accordingly. And I don't know. I just see it everywhere where people are kind of getting hamstrung because they're just fucked from paying everyone everything, and then they end up nothing to show for it. And then obviously the other problem is when the thing comes out and it's shit. The crew that all charged heaps were like, well, I'm glad I charged heaps because it was shit.
You go,
And it's like that's
it's
not,
your
that's
fault.
not the lesson. That's not the lesson to take away here. Well, glad I charged my full fare because that was a piece of shit. And it's like, well, maybe it wouldn't have been if you just eased on the brakes a little bit. But I I think it's part of an upcoming, and we've sort of touched on it a little bit before, but we're talking about streaming. We're talking about no one going to cinemas, no one going to theaters. This is all heading towards a big fucking problem. This is all heading towards a huge disaster for the industry, for the New Zealand industry, for the film industry as a whole. There's only one. It's not going to get reversed, right? It's heading towards this thing, just like the music industry has gone through it, but the music industry had a little ace up its sleeve called live touring, which the fucking film industry does not have up its sleeve at all. I mean, to some degree, you could tour your films around, and I'm sure we will see that. We do see that with people like Kevin Smith and stuff like that. I think we'll see that more often, but it's not that viable for a couple of fucking jobbers, Guy and Harley, to be touring around. And it's like Kevin Smith can tour around because you're going to see Kevin Smith. Guy and Harley can't tour around under the same pretenses, peddling their next feature necessarily.
Well, it would totally work if you had cheap enough cinemas, but the problem is it costs hundreds of dollars to hire a cinema. And so if you don't sell enough tickets, you basically got to sell all the tickets to make any decent amount of money by the time you pay for the cinema hire plus the travel and the accommodation. It's just not really, like how many screenings would you have to do to make enough money, per town to justify the travel and the accommodation and the cinema hire?
Well, and also
great profit margins for how much work it would be.
And that's the thing. Again, you're not like the cinemas aren't applying the logic to this. It's like, cool, we're down again this year. Well, we got to make the prices of everything more expensive to mitigate that. And it's like, no, because then less people will go because less people can afford to go. So then less people will come again. So if anything, this whole constantly jacking up the prices of the cost of a movie ticket is accelerating the death of cinema. And so then it's like, okay, cool. What would you rather have? An empty cinema or a couple of jobbers, Guy and Harley, paying you some money for that cinema, half filling that cinema, all those people buying some food and drink and stuff like that and having a great time. And the only skin off your nose is that you didn't have to charge them a fucking insane amount for it. You only had to charge them what you charge people for birthday parties now that want to go and play PlayStation in your fucking cinemas. You have to apply that to them going to your cinema and creating a whole bunch of business for you. That's what we can't do it. But hey, if you and your mates were to come play PlayStation on the big screen, boy, have we got a deal for you.
Well, what is that? How much is that? Like how do you, because surely they charge kind of the same, right?
I can't truly say. I just have a feeling it's quite a lot cheaper because you got to remember, it's only going to be 10 or 20 people.
Yeah.
But then again, who knows?
They've got two ways. They've got two ways of doing it, right? Of renting you the cinema. One is it's called four-walling, where you just rent the whole cinema and then it's your problem. So it costs $500 and you sell the tickets for however much you want. They don't care. And none of their business. Or the other option is you get a profit share deal with them, which is where they actually want to share the profit. They'll give you 50% of every ticket or something like that. But that's the good one, really, because then there's less risk up front. It's like, we only sold one ticket. Well, here's your $7.50.
And also you both to some degree would be invested in wanting those things to be a success.
Yeah.
And I just think about all the sort of indie films that aren't getting cinematic releases or whatever. And what the answer and some of this type of strategy would be a much better way to go than either trying to do a big release and no one showing up and it just costing a huge amount of money, it would be these types of things. But yeah, I just feel like we're just heading towards calamity. We're in the middle of it. But everyone wants to just go, no, sorry, my rate's $1,200 a day. Sorry about that. That's my rate. Okay. So
Can't help
does
you.
that mean no? I'm sorry, I can't help you there. That's my rate. And it's like, okay, cool. But when kind of that well dries up, in a few more years' time, you won't be able to charge anything because people won't be making things. Or they'll be just, obviously things will always be made, but it'll just be to much lesser degree. We've already seen that, like, for instance, the Film Commission have less money to make films. How do you think that's going to translate to the film industry? Is it going to translate to more films being made? And again, if we don't show up to our New Zealand films, which we don't, okay, what does that translate to? What does it mean? Like, well, why make them? Why the fuck make them? If your metric is, hey, success is only found in the cinema. And it's weird because there's levels to this shit. There's tiers to this shit. We're in the indie level, so we can see it from the ground. If you're in the upper tiers, you don't really notice. If you're on the platform at the top eating all the food, you don't see just the shit that's left over, all the scraps at the bottom. You don't see that being left for those people, which technically is the future of the industry. All you see is like, hey, I'm fat, I'm eating. What's the problem? Everything's good here, right? $1,200. You know it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
he obviously didn't want to develop that relationship with me either, because I've never hired him for anything before. So it's not. So you might be like, okay, look, it's a little bit lower than I like, but I would like to, establish a working relationship with Harley Neville, the Harley Neville.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take this slightly lower paying job. I'm going to take it just to establish the relationship. No, not address it. Not worth it. Still not worth it. That carrot is not big enough. So yes, good. Well, look, what else we got? There was I want to try something here. There was so have you seen my latest ad, Guy, where I'm being shaved on the television?
No, I've only seen the one where you're in the pool with the yogurt, or looking at the guy in the pool with the yogurt.
Well, that's also funny. Well, let's try something here, mate. Here we go. Are you ready? This should work.
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. That's a shot of my hairy back. 1 second.
Yeah, beautiful. Just really hang on that.
Okay.
No one's leaving with this graphic up. No one's immediately clicking off with this graphic up, so don't you worry there. We're all
Okay.
glued.
Hang on. I'll make this work. Oh.
Yuck. Oh. Shame was to stay in here. Results.
Expensive power and cheap power, they're identical.
Same energy, probably cheaper.
All right, let's go again.
So there you go. That's my new ad. Did that work? Could you see that, hear that properly?
Yeah, it did work. And actually, I told a lie. I saw that. Obviously, I had seen that, and of course, I immediately tried to scrub it from
your
my
yeah.
And never again. And I did successfully do that until then. But those nightmares will now be fresh once again.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Appreciate that. Yes.
Yeah, no problem, Guy. Yeah, that's funny in that one because he body shames me as well. He's like, he looks at my hairy body and he goes, and this wasn't in the script, and he goes, yuck.
So that was an ad lib.
That was an ad lib. That wasn't in the script, or if it was, they gave me a censored version of the script so as not to hurt my feelings, But that was an ad lib. He was just revolted by my body, or our bodies. But the funny thing is, my hair was real, and the other guy had to have a bunch of fake hair put on him. He still had some. That's the ad where I kind of wondered if the reason why it took so long to come out was because it was they kind of put me in blackface a little bit. Like what they did was they gave me a fake tan to match him. They gave me some contacts in order to match him a little bit more as well. They weren't brown, but they were like a kind of a green, sort of a darker green type color. Plus they gave me a fake tan, and they dyed my hair and my chest hair, my back hair, my head hair, my beard, and all that. So and then it never came out for like 9 months. It never came out, and I was thinking, have they decided not to release it because it's too controversial, because it looks stupid? It looks like they've taken a white man and tried to make him look like a brown man or something like that. But that isn't how it came across. Very funny, good stuff, body shaming. I really like it. At least I'm the hot one as well, you know, of those two gross hairy guys, hairy bald gross
That's true.
men. At least I'm the hot one, you know, like
Yeah.
could be worse, you know. Yeah. So and then on top of that, so I also got another ad recently, and I got to go down to Wanaka for a few nights, and it was a low budget ad. That sorry, just making sure we're actually live. We are. It was a low budget ad that only paid about $2,500, and my agent didn't really think I should do it because it's not very good for your as an actor. It's not very good to be in too many ads because it restricts your ability to be in better paying ads for competing products. So in this case, it was a tourism related ad. So if I had said no to it, that would mean I'd more likely to get some other big tourism ad, you know, in the event that tourism ad, I would get an audition for it and then land the role. But, you know, I'm more of a believer of like a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. And so it's like, if I've got this little low budget ad, it's still okay money, $2,500 for a day's work. It's better than a poke in the eye. Although I did have to pay for my own flights and accommodation and car rental down in Queenstown and Wanaka. But that didn't bother me because it still worked out okay. And you know, I love the South Island. I'm happy to go down there. I got a day of free snowboarding out of it as well. All the gear hire, everything. I haven't snowboarded in 15 years, but let me tell you, the kids still got it. The kids still got it. I was awesome. It was as if I had never gotten off it. I did notice I was a little bit harder to get higher. You know, it's like I'm trying to lift more mass now. I can feel that I'm heavier. You know, I used to fly a lot easier, but now not so much. But it was really good fun, and the ad was funny, and so it should be quite good. And then I went and visited our dear hometown of Dunedin, which was great as well. And so, yeah, it was good. It was a good experience.
Yes. The thing about that whole, and this is where, again, I just have a completely different perspective than agents when they're sort of like, I caution you not to do that because it's low paying. You know, that'll set a precedent of low paying. And
bucks,
also,
bro.
and also, and you'll put yourself at risk of not getting another job. And it's like, cool. Let's I'm happy that you're positive that I'm going to get another job, but let's also assume realistically that, and again, it's this thing, you're being offered a job now, which is still reasonable, still a very good daily rate, going to be probably a funny ad, going to be a great experience. You're going to be offered that, and you're banking on something imaginary better in the future coming along with absolutely no guarantees, absolutely no suggestion that is going to happen, completely unverified, completely pie in the sky thinking, just because. And you're going to take that imaginary thing over the sure thing that exists, you know, to do this project. It's just fucking weird to me. I'm sorry. It's like, again, it's kind of this thing of like, yeah, cool. Look, if you're Jack Black, I was trying to look for an example of an actor of a similar caliber. Jack Black doesn't have to fuck around with, $2,000 ads, right? Because he literally does have other things coming up. He will have other things to do. He will have the next job, if it's not already lined up. He could get a call any day. That's all actually true for him. But it's not for just the regular Kiwi
Harley
actor.
Neville.
Yeah, just the regular Joe Blow, fucking hairy guy. And so it's just a very weird perspective to be like, no, I don't like it. No, it's bad, terrible. Don't be employed for a day. Don't do the thing you love for a day. Whatever you do, don't do the thing you love for a day and show your talents. That would be a horrible idea, because in the future, we've got nothing lined up, but in the future, just maybe, no guarantees, there's nothing lined up and you haven't had any auditions, but in the future, there might be something else. So do that instead. It's crazy.
Well, I'm with you, mate. I'm with you, especially because the idea of a day of work for a couple of $1,000 and all expenses paid trip down south, and and you still walk away with $1,000 in your pocket or something like that for a day of snowboarding. I mean, I'm an adventurer. I like adventuring. It's awesome. So you make $1,000. I get to visit some friends and family. I get to see the beautiful South Island of New Zealand and get a free day of snowboarding. People pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars to go snowboarding. All the gear, everything you're doing. If I wanted to go
100%.
snowboarding, it'd easily cost me $1,000 by the time I drive there, accommodate myself, hire all the gear. None of it doesn't make sense. I'm getting this for free, and I'm walking away with more than $1,000 in my pocket. Beautiful, love it. So, and then on top of that, I want to establish relationships with those filmmakers, because the way I got the role was because we hired somebody for our last short film who worked on it. Anna, shout out to Anna, and she did a great job down there, and she posted online saying she needed this role for this ad, and I put my hand up, and she was like, hey, actually, yeah, you'd be great, but you'd have to pay for all, you make your own way there. And I was like, well, that sounds worth it. And then I get down there, and this is my chance to establish a working relationship with new content creators. So it's networking. I want to embed myself in the community of the Central Otago filmmaking community, because then I can get a good excuse to go down there regularly.
Yeah, well, I do want to circle back to the fact that guy ad-libbed gross.
Yeah.
Looking at you, or ooh. What was it, ooh or gross?
No, he goes, yuck.
Yuck. Okay, sorry. So you know what happened there, right? Because if that wasn't in the script, either two things happened.
Yeah.
One, you got given a non-bullying script, right? So they were like, we don't want this man to feel bullied or body shamed by this thing that we're going to do, which is to body shame him.
Mm-hmm.
So we will give him a doctored version of the script where the bit where he gets made fun of is removed, so he's not aware that is what is actually happening
until it's
and
too
late. That he is the true butt of this joke. So let's just doctor this. This is Harley's script. This is everyone else's script.
Mm-hmm.
So to be honest, I believe it. I believe it could have happened. The other thing, it could have just been an ad lib on the day. And to be honest, I don't put that in the actors. I don't blame the actor for that. I feel like the director or the agency was like, what if you just said, what if you just reacted to what you're seeing? So can you just give us a couple reactions, that you're maybe a little taken aback by what you're seeing? And he goes, yeah, sure. Ooh, gross.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they go, perfect. We love it. You know what? That's actually funnier if we use that.
Yeah.
Because of how disgusting they are. We really need to acknowledge how disgusting these people are. It seems weird that you're not acknowledging that. And he goes, oh, okay, no worries. I'll definitely acknowledge how disgusting these two people are. Let me do that. And they go, brilliant. We love it. Let's print that.
They're lucky I've got a sense of humor, because it is quite funny. It's my funniest bit. That's the funniest bit of it. Yuck.
That's what I'm saying is
body shaming.
you could like if that truly wasn't in the script, right?
Yeah, which I don't
And
think
if
it
you
was.
gave a shit, if you gave a shit and it wasn't in the script, you could up a stink with your agent
Mm.
and be like, "Hey, it wasn't in the script that they made fun of me. I didn't agree to that. In the script, they were just looking at my back, which had some information on it.
Yeah, that's what I
Okay?
was told.
No disgust. No, oh, this guy's a freak with his hairy back. None
Mm.
of that. And now look what they've done. Look what they've done to my boy. Look what they've done to my boy. So so you could do that, and potentially they'll be like, oh, we don't want to be accused of body shaming and bullying.
Not in
Would another
2024.
I was gonna say, would another $10,000 make you feel less bullied and body shamed, Mr.
Yeah.
Neville? And you'd
Yeah.
be like, you know what? I really think it would actually. Yeah, you know what? Actually that would make me feel way better about it. Actually, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, obviously, you're not going to go through that whole rigmarole, but I actually feel like all of that is 100% on the cards if it wasn't in the script and you just didn't very lazily not read the script properly.
No, I'm pretty sure I didn't just lazily not read the script. I'm reasonably sure of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that will roll over soon, that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's still pretty new.
Yeah, well, it's actually that's the weird thing is they shot it, all that time ago. They shot it, 12 months ago, and they only started using it like 2 months before it rolls over. So either they were like, this is shat, we'll just use it for a couple of months at the end of the licensing period, or they were like, this is awesome. Well, no, they were like, we'll just stagger it, and then we'll just happily roll it over again, no problem. So it'd be one of those.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, I also just think that the like agencies and industries are weird. They really, they get this allocated this marketing budget, and then they people just change their minds on shit, and it's like that money didn't matter. Like I just watched this sort of big in-depth breakdown of essentially a $350,000 documentary, right? Which was on a technology company, and essentially and they flew all around the US and the UK to interview people about this technology company and what they were doing and all this sort of thing. And then they edited it. They put everything together. Then the CEO got fired or left, maybe just left. And then whoever took over was like, "Now, you know what? That doesn't really align with our branding ideas now. So thank you. Here's your money. Thank you. But none of that will ever see the light of day. Like literally, that doesn't exist anymore. But thank you for your work. Thank you for your hard work."
Well, speaking of things that I didn't agree to, on that ad, I remembered that they shoved a camera in my face for like some social media content, and they were like, "Yeah, we just want to like interview you now." And I was actually a bit sick at the time, but I was hiding it. I was like
me,
yeah,
but you wanted to do the ad, so
exactly.
You didn't
so I
say,
had to.
"Hey guys, I'm a little bit sick."
Yeah, I just infected everybody. No, well, because what happened was I'd previously been sick, and I was past the contagious phase, but I still had like a bit of a sore chest, like that type of thing, and I was just not really I was not in a great space at that moment, and so they were like, "Hey, can you come here? And we just want to do an interview for social media." And I'm like topless, naked. It was cold, so I'm topless, and and they're like, "We want to interview you like with no clothes on, for this like random social media shit." And I was pretty sure. Vertical, and I was like, okay. And then they were trying to ask me like funny comedy questions, but they were not very funny, and they wasn't like easy to bounce off. Plus, I wasn't really in the mood. Plus, I was like, I don't think I agreed to be doing social media interviews in my undies. I don't remember that.
Right.
I was like, I'm pretty sure that my contract says this is a commercial, and it says where it'll go, but it doesn't say anything about like added social media content, of me in my undies for fucking Facebook or something. you know? So I was kind of like only really half on board and not really offering very much because they were interviewing me and somebody else. So yeah, that's that. Another thing I didn't agree to on that ad.
Yeah, so you could file yourself a nice little personal grievance there, Harley, if you wanted.
Yeah.
Get yourself
Good.
get a little extra change off that one, but
yeah, sabotage a few
professional, so you won't.
relationships. Yeah, sabotage a few
Yeah.
relationships. No, it was really all in all, it was a great crew and everything was really good. And I think the ad's really funny. So no complaints on my end. Bloody good stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Now we should talk about New Followers because New Followers is our new short film that is coming out next month on the 8th of October in Melbourne. It's going to be at Monster Fest having its world premiere. So if you're in Melbourne, get on down to Monster Fest. Get on down to Monster Fest. Shit. Just got a notification that my battery's going to die.
Battery for what?
For my laptop because I left my... Oh, man, this thing is fucked. See, what happened is where I lost my split screen when the whole thing crashed. Okay, so I left my charger at the office today at the festival that I work for, and so I plugged in my other charger directly in, and it does work, but it's it's the wrong charger for this type. I've got the advanced Mac. This is the basic Mac, and it says my Mac is going to go to sleep soon unless plugged into a PowerPoint. So that's good. That's good. We'll have to wrap up this show very soon.
Well, that's okay. Maybe we just finish with this New Followers info then.
Yeah, sounds good.
If you're in Melbourne, get down there.
Yep.
I was hoping to get down there.
Is that not looking likely?
Well, that ACC bill really threw me for a loop.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Right.
Yeah, and it's also going to be very expensive too to get over there. Like as in, I'm still kind of on the fence. I'm still humming and hawing. The other problem is like I kind of sabotage. Like really I should stay there for longer. If I stay there for longer, it means that we'll miss the other premiere or the opening night of Show Me Shorts, which it's also premiering at.
It's having its New Zealand premiere.
So then I can't go, and then I've actually already didn't realize, but I committed to, or my close personal friend Alex Savage committed to a wrestling booking on that weekend. So I won't even be able to. So anything I do, I'm fucked. If I go to Melbourne, but I don't stay because technically you should stay to the 12th because that's when the after party is.
Yeah.
But the 12th is when our premiere is, but it's also when my close personal friend is wrestling, and so it's all just it's not good.
No.
So that much. It's not good.
Well, look, I think we should find a way for you to go to Melbourne because, these guys can potentially play a part in helping us get the funding for the feature. They if they were to represent us for New Zealand and Australia, so it's a very justifiable expense. It's not just going for a party or a bit of fun. It will be party and it will be fun, but it will also be a great chance to cement that relationship. And you'd be having your second meeting with these people. So it's and then that means I go to AFM. We didn't get the chance to talk about this yet, but I'm going to go to Vegas in November to attend AFM. So shout out to our Vegas listeners. If anybody wants to hang out, let me know. You can buy me a beer. And so, you go to Melbourne, secure that New Zealand, Australia cinema release. I go to AFM, secure the other things we need, come back to New Zealand, and away we go. Next year, we get the funding from the Film Commission for the feature film version of New Followers.
I do want to do that. My only fear is purely that essentially, because I have messaged him, we've been in sort of discussion. He's like, or I'll make some time for a catch up sort of thing. But my fear is because he is running a festival.
He'll be busy as fuck.
And ultimately, I'll be there for maybe only 3 days, 2 nights, 3 days, 2 nights or something like that.
He'll find time.
cool, man. When do you want to catch up? And he'll be like, yeah, let's catch up on X. And I go, sweet, see you there. And then he's like, last minute emergency at the fest. I can't make it. I'm sorry. I'll catch you next time.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, no, this is the only reason I'm here. It's not really to see the film.
It's
I
possible.
can see the film anytime I want. That's my phobia.
Yeah.
And if I know that if I was there for like sort of the duration of it, the whole
It will be the world premiere with the first time seeing it with a proper audience.
Yeah. But I don't know if there'll be anyone at the bloody cinema,
There will, and he'll make time. He will. So
yeah,
you'll get your meeting. It'll work.
Yeah. Well, I've been that kid standing on the sidewalk. Oh, okay. Oh, no worries then. Well, the whole point of this thing is irrelevant now. But thank you.
Next time,
let's talk soon.
I took out a big loan to come here.
Yeah, so speak soon. Speak soon.
I better go to work.
Oh fuck! So I just know that feeling. That's all.
I don't think that'll happen.
It's still possible. In some ways, I'm really torn of like, do I just go for that 3 days?
Just go for the opening night and the screening. Opening night and the screening. Don't worry about the party at the end because that's just a party.
The opening night. The problem is that the opening night is way more expensive plane tickets.
Oh, right. Okay, then the opposite.
If I
screening and the after party.
Well, again, I'm kind of fucked both ways. But then if I do that, then I can't go to the Show Me Shorts.
Oh, yeah, right. No, you want to go to Show Me Shorts. That's the other thing, dear listeners. As Guy wrestles with this, dear listener, that's the other place you can see it is at the Show Me Shorts. Go to showmeshorts.co.nz. It's playing in a screening of films called Slashes and Splatters. Or Splatters and Slashes, I think it's called. Splatters and Slashes. And so it's a horror screening. So go to showmeshorts.co.nz. Look for Splatters and Slashes as a session. The New Zealand premiere and the cast and crew will be there as well, is on October 12th at Academy Cinemas in Auckland CBD. So if that sounds like fun, get your tickets. Go to showmeshorts.co.nz or go to the Academy Cinemas website and you'll see it there. It's called New Followers and it's in the Slashes and Splatters category. But then if you're not in Auckland, it's also going to be playing in, I think it's like 5 or 6 different other places as well around the country, including Wellington.
Sadly not Dunedin.
I notice it's not playing in Dunedin, which is a shame because, we could send our friends in whānau along to enjoy it. But, oh well, that is a shame. I mean, maybe I could ask about it because I remember that No Caller ID wasn't scheduled to play in Dunedin either. And I said to the boss at the festival, I said, hey, what do you think about adding it to the Dunedin screening so that, we'll send our friends and family along? And she was like, okay. And she did. So, maybe it's possible.
Making some inquiries.
The problem is I don't know anybody in Dunedin anymore. Everybody's moved away. I know a few people, but not necessarily so many people that would fill up a cinema. A lot of the people I just know that are still there, a lot of them would be like, Harley, who cares? I haven't seen that guy for ages.
I get a good solid 5 to 10 people there. 5 to 10.
Yeah. Maybe me too. Cool. All right. Well, I guess we will wrap it up. We didn't get the chance to talk about the Olympics, fucking Scotland, any of it. But I guess it's still going. The Olympics were good. So I went to the Olympics. I put graphics on the sailing. That was good fun. Beautiful weather, beautiful people, and beautiful swimming in the Mediterranean. And bread, beer, and cheese every day for breakfast. That was amazing. Amazingly fattening. I came back much fatter, obviously. And I bought cannabis off an authentic French street drug dealer. So that was fun. I heard where to go. I went over to this place and I said in my best French, it's something or other, acheter cannabis. It's like, I want to buy weed. And this guy and they weren't selling weed. They were selling like something else. Who knows what? And so, but then he pointed me in the right direction. And then I went over there and there was all these people just milling around in this like sketchy looking, square with graffiti everywhere. And they're all just kind of milling around. And I went up to somebody else and I said the same thing. I was like, I want to buy some weed, but in French. And then he was like, 5 minutes, And so I just waited for 5 minutes, didn't really know what was going on. And then these two guys came out of an alleyway and one of them goes to one side of the square and the other one goes to the other side of the square. And one of them, I think, was selling cocaine and the other one was selling weed. And so I went to the weed guy and everybody was just over there kind of like throwing their money at him. And it was all very, all in the open, like in the middle of the day.
And they were all swarming them like piranhas. And I kind of came to realize that actually, if I don't hurry the fuck up and get in there, I'm going to miss out on my weed because everyone was just throwing money at these guys and grabbing their stuff and walking away. And it's like, it was a Friday night or something like that. People had places to be. So it was all very hectic. And I was like, well, I guess I'll just have to jump into the fray. And so I jumped in with my money. And because it was weird European money, I believe they call them euros, I had to, I accidentally, they were $10 each for this little weed canister. And I accidentally gave him 30 euros instead of 20 euros. I had and so basically I accidentally bought 33% more cannabis than I required for my trip. And so yeah, I got in there, I got it, I was very brave in a graffitied alleyway. I stood out like a sore thumb, not only because I was the only white guy, but because I was wearing like this brand new bright blue work branded backpack. And so, and plus my terrible accent in French and in English. And so, I really stood out but I got it. And that was that. And what was interesting was it was a water soluble kind of weed, which I'd never seen before, but I read up about it on the interweb. And it was this water-soluble kind of weed that you could just put it in your mouth and let it dissolve, or you could put it in your drink if you wanted to and let it dissolve and just drink it. And so it was very mild, or you could burn it. And yeah, it was pretty good. It was weed. It wasn't some other weird thing. And I would know. Believe me, I would know. So yeah, that was what happened when I bought cannabis in Marseille, in French. Now, this does bring us to the end of the show. I would say goodbye to Guy, except for he's not here. In fact, I'm going to level with you, dear listener. I'm finishing this story perhaps 4 months later after I began it, because we had a lot of really terrible tech issues in this episode. The program crashed, the mics kept on switching on and off, and then it crashed again, and it was like, okay, fuck. Well, shit. And that's why it took me so long to get this to you, because I was putting off editing it, because I knew I was going to have to diddle around for ages, fixing a lot of little finicky things. But it is here now, and it is done, and we are going to do more episodes in 2025. We are not giving up the show. I know that there's been a bit of a pause here, but hey, long-time listeners will know that there's always, ebbs and flows in the Guy and Harley podcast. And it ebbed for a little while. We got busy, but hey, it's going to flow. All right. I'd love to do it consistently on a certain day of the week at a certain time. 3, 2, 1, we go live. Boom, 7 p.m. I work in live broadcasting, right? It should be like that. But it's not always that easy. So anyway, thank you so much for listening. Happy New Year, because it's Happy New Year. It's that time of year. And so, yes, we look forward to a productive and exciting 2025 with all of the 5150 listeners tuning in, just like the old days. So, catch you in the new year.
You've been listening to the Guy and Harley podcast, proudly brought to you by Pigville Productions.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.